It's time to take a look at the Railgun implants, and I will start with the high power coil implant. Now, I was told that the Vindicator can hit 88,000 DPS with the high power coil implant, so I'm very curious to see if that's true. Personally, I think that's not true because only the material is capable to deliver around 55,000 DPS with X-type modules. Now, I've seen one picture of the Apocalypse Striker hitting 110,000 DPS, which was proven to be fake, so I believe the 88,000 DPS Vindicator is also fake, but we will see what will happen. Now I have 3.2 thousand DPS with the blasters. These are the C-type large subduced railguns or blasters. Overall, very good stats on the weapon accuracy file of 13, optimal range 9.36 kilometers, reload 5 seconds, dual webs, one scrambler and large Nosferatu, dual medium drones, basically the usual mid slot setup for the Vindicator, one afterburner, dual repairs, one capacitor battery and dual adaptive armor hardeners. Basically a classic tank Vindicator. Now as for the rigs, this ship is built for a DPS, no rig integrations, only classic tier 4 combat rigs, railgun burst aerators, 3 of them. And in the engineering rigs I have capacitor rigs, and I think this is one auxiliary thruster. The defense on this ship is not that bad, of course, will be a little bit, the overall resistances will be a little bit lower because I use DPS rigs, but the DPS is the main thing on this Vindicator. Now let's take a look at the implant. So there's a little difference between the Barrage Implant and this one. The high power coil implant will be depleted, doesn't matter if you shoot or not, the power bar will slowly go down while the barrage will be depleted when you're actively shooting. Now it will increase the railgun damage by 50%, activation time 5 seconds, activation delay 2 seconds, power consumption 25 and power increase by attack 10. Now, interesting fact with the railguns, you can actually reload the implant by shooting, which is very interesting. And of course I will show you the general units, basically also focused on maximum possible DPS. At level 15 you get power retrieval, and you get the other one which is called a Retardant Coil. And I picked this one, basically it improves the DPS in further. The railguns can actually decrease the resistance of the target, and of course at level 30 you can also further decrease the resistance of your target, and I picked that attribute. And these are some more general units. Overall you can pick basically any combination you like. In my case I like tank, DPS and capacitor, and ballistic marker will recharge the implant once you turn that attribute on. Overall, very fun stuff. Okay, well, let's take a look at how this actually works. Now, fun fact, you can use the station to recharge the implant, which is very evil, but as you can see it works. Now it's at 10, and with each new shot it will increase it by 10, now it's 20. And this will slowly increase the power, or the implant, ammo, capacitor, however you would like to call that. The level 45 attributes will drastically improve the recharge of the implant. And soon I will go and take a look at the DPS once the implant is active. 3.2 thousand DPS. Here you can take a look at the ship's resistances. Overall really nice. Explosive hole at 54, but it's really not a big problem. You can easily cover that with one rig. Okay, power is 100. Let's take a look at the active DPS of the implant. 4,884.12 DPS. And as you can see, this is the maximum DPS with the current build. Far away from 80,000. Of course, I will check that out once the ship is built for maximum DPS. Now, this implant can last around 40 seconds, and if you match the recharge with the active primary attribute, then you can get that 4.8 thousand active DPS for about 40 to 50 seconds, and that is pretty good, stable DPS. Now, I picked quad magnetic field stabilizers. Now it's 5000 cold DPS. Not bad, definitely not bad. A little bit higher than the Macarial, but we will see what the active DPS will be like. Again, I will recharge the implant, and then I will go with the maximum possible DPS output. Locking on the station, let's start shooting. To quickly recharge the implant, I used the level 45 attribute. The DPS is still 5000, okay. The implant should be fully charged in a moment. With quad magnetic field stabilizers, the DPS is 8.6 thousand, which is actually really nice. And now let's turn on the implant. And the DPS is 12,932.83. So with a full DPS build with C-types, it's not even close to 88,000 DPS. However, if I were to place X-type modules, I would probably get around 15,000-16,000 DPS with the current build, so that is already enough evidence to show that it's impossible to get 88,000 DPS. Unless, of course, I am missing something, but I don't think I am. And this implant lasts a very long time. Now it's 7.5 thousand DPS when the magnetic field stabilizers go offline, which is still really solid DPS. Definitely not anywhere close to Macarial level DPS with the Barrage, but still, it's very nice. Okay, let's dock, and then I will...
Docking request
I think
accepted.
I will change the build one more time to test something again. Okay, now I swapped the... I did change the build a little bit, basically to give the ship a little bit of a tank, and now I will go and see what it can do in missions. Basically, this is what I do with any ship that I test out. Last time it was the Macarial, now it's the Vindicator. Now, the Barrage Implant wasn't really good for missions. It's good if you have to shoot down one elite ship in 10 seconds, but the Barrage Implant has better application for PvP, while the Railgun implants have application in PvP, but also can be used in missions, because their DPS would be way more stable and would last a lot longer. As you can see, I can keep the 8,000, 9,000 DPS on this ship without any problem for over 50 seconds, for over 40 seconds to be more accurate. If lucky, definitely around 50 seconds, which is definitely a lot better for faster clear times, while the Barrage is pretty good for PvP. If you ask me, it's terribly overpowered for PvP. Basically, you land at your target at 0 and you delete your target in, well, 5 to 10 seconds. It requires a very expensive brick tank to survive a Barrage Macarial. And a build like that is very similar to the builds that I show you, so yeah, they're pretty expensive and definitely not available to most of the players. Of course, you will stumble upon a couple of them, but yeah, I used a build that could technically survive a Macarial with Barrage on some of my tanky battleships, but yeah, most of the players don't have a fit like that, so most of the targets that you will attack with the Barrage Macarial will be dead in a couple seconds. Now as for this ship, well, I have some pretty good alpha damage, and the implant does last, as you can see, for a very long time, which makes this definitely a lot better for missions. Now the laser implant is working in a similar way, although with the laser implant you basically can't miss. If you miss, then your DPS will be drastically reduced. Basically you will lose the effect if you miss with the lasers. The other laser implants, I will make a video about that after this probably. I personally like the laser implants, although as with all the implants that we currently have, they're all overpowered and they are all breaking the game. So yeah, I expect them to be changed at one point, probably when they become a lot more common, because currently the only way to obtain the implant is through market or through reverse engineering, which is going to be quite expensive. Now, did I buy one of the implants? Nope. I like to have my wallet intact in the game, so I haven't bought any implants yet. Now, I was asked a couple times, a lot of times actually, can you stack the general units of the same type in the implant? And the answer would be no. I thought you could. I thought that you could place two of the same type as basically the maximum limit, but that's not the case. Basically, you are limited to one general unit of one type, or if we are looking at the same type unit, then you can fit, for example, one general unit for gyro stabilizer strength and the other gyro stabilizer general unit for, let's say, efficiency. And after that you can't fit any more of the gyro stabilizer in the general units. That's basically one of the limits, which I would say is a good thing, because let's face it, if there was no limit to that, I would probably slap like 7, 8 of the gyro stabilizer strength general units, and I would probably get around 100,000 DPS, because I think the effect doesn't have a penalty. So a 100,000 DPS Machariel would definitely be a reality if we could stack the general units, and I'm really happy that we can stack them. Basically saved us a lot of trouble in the balancing aspect. Now the only thing that they have to reduce is the overall strength of the implants. Basically reduce the effect by a lot. And there is of course the issue of compensation, which is not a big problem if you ask me. It's very easy to return all the stuff that players have spent, and they can also add a little bit of extra to that. So the solution is there. The developers just have to start implementing that. When will they do that? Well, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea when that will happen. Now you might ask, what is the clear time of this ship? Well, it's actually pretty solid. With around 8, 9,000, 10,000 stable DPS, you will clear missions very quickly. Now, I remember people talking about how battleships are now more efficient than carriers. I'm not really sure if that's the case, because a DPS carrier can have around 15,000 DPS stable, while the other battleships will have to sacrifice a lot to achieve that DPS. I think carriers are still the best choice for making ISK in nullsec, at least that's what I've seen. Battleships will definitely have use in high-sec, although imagine if we could send a carrier in high-sec. That would be hilarious. That would break the game 100% if carriers were able to enter high-sec. If carriers were able to run missions in high-sec, that would be broken. Although honestly, if a carrier is running missions in low sec, it's actually sounds weird, it sounds crazy, but would actually work really well. And of course, it's not easy to tackle a carrier, especially with the drone bombs that can delete a brick tank ship in 2 seconds. I have seen a carrier delete a tanky Raven. I didn't even lock on. The Raven was just dead. It was just deleted with the drone bomb implant. That was hilarious. So if you are a battleship, a tanky one, doesn't matter if a carrier starts locking you, just warp. If you don't click on warp, well, you are going to be experiencing something very unpleasant, which is called fighters with drone bombs, which increases the alpha damage of the fighters by 350%, and that is a lot of damage. Unfortunately, we still can't see the effect of the drone bombs when we look at the ship fitting, but the increase should be significant for the 5 shots that the drones can do, or fighters. Both work in the same way. You can also adjust the drone orbit, which is good when you have to decloak a cloaky ship. It can also be useful to avoid the drone bombs for the future. Overall, a very interesting mechanic. Very interesting mechanic, to be honest. Now, my apologies for the 30 FPS lag here. The phone is a little bit overheating. It's a very hot day. Summer was really hot over here. So no matter how much cooling you have, basically I need a ice block to cool this thing down. Same can be said about my PC. Although I'm definitely not going to complain about the winter when it's cold, then the extra heat generated by the processors is going to be very useful. Portable hand warmer, as I like to joke around. Well, that was a quick mission. Let's
warp drive active.
One more mission. This time have quad magnetic field stabilizers. Only one armor repairer and one afterburner. I think you don't even have to use an afterburner, but I just like to use an afterburner. Can be quite useful in a lot of situations. At least for my personal experience, although I know a lot of players don't use an afterburner for missions. I guess it's a good thing to get used to afterburners, because you can decide to go and run missions in low sec. Without a propulsion module in low sec, you are a very easy target. And of course, I try to make my builds work in basically all scenarios. That so far seems to be the case. My builds work in every possible scenario you can imagine. This exact build can also be used for PvP. Basically, you have one ship for tackle, and then you warp to the tackle ship at the correct distance, and then you apply your DPS. 12,132 DPS with this current build and with the current implant. Now, with the other implant, thermal circulation, I did achieve around 15,000 DPS. Again, still far away from the 88,000 DPS that I was told about. So that's basically the limit of the Vindicator. If I were to swap all X-type modules with X-type magnetic field stabilizers, basically a fit that costs a couple of kidneys, then I would probably get around, I would say 20, 21, maybe 25,000 DPS with the thermal circulation implant, but that's going to be the limit for this ship. Above that, I don't think it's possible. and I don't want to try out the officer modules because they are super rare and no one in the game currently will have a Vindicator with full-on officer build. So X-type builds are there. I have seen some ships that use full X-type modules. They exist, but full-on officer module ships, no, they don't exist at the moment. In the future, yeah, I can see the officer modules be a lot more common, but at the moment X-types are the limit, and the thermal circulation implant was also built for maximum possible DPS. Cannot use the same general unit of the same type multiple times, so that's basically the highest DPS that you will have on this ship. Is it balanced? No, it's not. It's far from balanced. It's broken, and basically all implants are busted and broken. The developers know that, the players know that, everyone knows that. We are currently just waiting for the solution. But that's basically all that there has to be, all that there is to the implants. The only implants that I have to test out yet, and of course to record, well, more like I have to record them, have tested them out, but I haven't recorded yet, are the laser implants. I think they will be out tomorrow, we will see. But they're basically the only ones left for me to test out. The ones that I personally consider to be problematic and mostly overpowered. We'll of course test out the sniper one and the rest of them that's left. Perhaps I'm able to create some very, let's say, very tanky ships, and that's going to be hilarious because some of the implants can actually make that a reality, especially with the Nestor. So we will see what will happen. Perhaps I will start to fly the Nestor, although I'm not really sure. Honestly, lately I haven't been enjoying super expensive ships, not really sure why. Probably because I have destroyed like 2 or 3 space bands by now, and I have seen Nestors get deleted, so I think all that is kind of affecting my enjoyment with these ships, because I have destroyed them that easily, so perhaps I can also lose them in the same way, just as easy, because they're really easy to lose ships. Well then, that would be it for the high power coil implant. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. And with that being said, hope that you enjoyed. Stay safe, fly safe, and I'll see you next time.